Be good.
Welcome back to another episode of the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. It is our usual time here on Wednesday. We are broadcasting live out into the YouTube airwaves. I'm Jim Root, your host for the week, joined by Kai McEwen and Matthew Cox, who are both back home in their lovely abodes in St. Louis for the holidays. Fellas, I don't know if you recall this, but I'm pretty sure we skipped Feast Week last year, a very rare in-season week that we did not have a pod. So we're battling through all the games and putting it out there today. Kai, there's a lot of great ones, an incredible slate today with the Maui final and Atlantis starting up. How are you feeling back home, ready to stuff your face tomorrow?
Feeling good, Jim. Would feel better if you and I wouldn't blow this second half. You know, we felt pretty
Battle
good.
boys.
We felt pretty
not
good
done
being
yet.
up 6. They're not dead yet, but golly, not a good start
They're
for Wednesday. But I'm excited to eat food, Jim. I love food. Food's the best.
Hey, there you go. Matthew, how about you? Food takes.
Good.
Do you like it
No, it's
or are
not
you
dead.
anti?
No, yeah, I'm pro food.
Okay,
Pro life, all that good stuff. Pro living, of course, nourishment my body. Yeah, Jim, good to be home. What's not dead is the spirit of fellowship and friends and family gathered around the hearth. Turkey, ham, whatever Friday you may choose. I'm more of a ham guy, Mr. McKeon. We've litigated the stuffing or no stuffing debate till the cows came home.
Stuffing's great.
We won't bore. It's fine, and we won't bore listeners with that sort of chatter today, Jim. But yeah, we got some chatter on hoop. It's again the week early of Feast Week is odd to me. Felt like I wasn't ready for it. It's kind of
Our whole pod is going to be comparing teams to Thanksgiving dishes.
Nice.
No, it's not. Sorry, it's not. That is actually not what it's going to be. Apologies if that's the content you need and you crave. That's not what we're doing. Instead, we're doing a quick roots roundup, little news and notes. Then we're going to get into some Maui takeaways of 7 of the 8 teams. Again, sorry, Chaminade, a little bit of erasure there, but they will not be relevant to our D1 podcast going forward, so we're ignoring them. Some 3-man thoughts. We've saw that, going through what's happened and our thoughts on it. We're going to give a shout out to a lot of the champions so far from Feast Week. Then a little bit of game previews, tourney previews of what is still to come. We'll mini preview Atlantis, even though North Carolina is winning. I think we would have all said most likely scenario is that the 11.5 point favorite moves on and is in the quarterfinal or the semifinal. So we'll go with it from there. But before we get to all that, shout out to Jay Pitty, Joey Paskov. Just got invited to his bachelor party, fellas.
Wow,
oh,
big time.
baby. Going to big sky country in like middle of nowhere, Wyoming, Idaho. Kind of pumped about that.
Sweet.
But that's
what's the itinerary? Like go to see sweet parks and
Yeah, I think there's some hiking, some snowmobiling, some shooting.
like a
some
self-discovery
gun
type of
range.
trip, sort of. That's good.
Yeah, very introspective.
Very raw.
Your Airbnb is in the middle of nowhere. I'm actually
Nice.
kind of excited. Not till April, not till after the season. So no distractions. Only ball during the year. Kai, we bachelor party in late April. John Rothstein, new one.
That's right.
Subscribe to the pod on iTunes, SoundCloud, Auto Radio, wherever. I don't know why we still say Auto Radio. It's still in my head, Matt, from 300 episodes ago.
I said it for
might be.
about 2.5 years, and a year and a half too long. Yeah, don't even know if it still exists.
I even
but
took it
if
out
it
of the
does,
outline.
please continue.
You guys keep saying it.
I'm robotic.
Just predisposed to say it. Yeah, me too.
I'm robotic. I can't help it. But yeah, we also love reviews. We have none this week. That's okay. People are busy with their families, and we've had a ton lately. So no shade on the listeners. They've been doing very well with reviews. So I'm not going to beg for them, Kai. And we
They
have
got
kind of moved
spooked by
them to
us
the end.
slandering the other guy's review. What was the 1-star?
Brendan Armitage.
We've scared him away. Yeah, which is probably so.
Yeah. And there's just less value that we're moving them to the end of the pod. People don't get that shine right at the top. So I get it.
That's right.
I understand. Personal corner, best bet show future remains in, I don't know, jeopardy or in purgatory. I guess we've got Saturdays on this very YouTube channel, 11 a.m. Eastern. And the Saturday slates have not been incredible. So we're still riding with the mid-major squads there, but it will pick up as the season goes along, of course. Still hoping to get a sponsorship figured out to start it up daily sooner, but haven't gotten there yet. And hey, you can still buy the Almanac if you haven't yet. There are a lot of teams playing all day, every day this week. Go ahead and check that out, cbbalmanac.com if you haven't. And hey, it even makes a great Thanksgiving gift because people give Thanksgiving gifts now. That's my new mandate. That's it. Let's get into Roots Roundup. But before we do, Mr. McEwen, shout out to CBB Analytics.
Yes.
And I just want, before we even get to any of the copy here, I've been seeing more and more of these charts out there on Twitter. CBB Analytics is starting to take over the world. So folks, get in while you can. Get in early.
It is indeed. And apologies, I don't have my second monitor, so I'm looking down a lot. So apologies for the visual effect of this podcast.
Eye contact.
But CBB Analytics, yes, best 30,000-foot view in college basketball. More than 25 Division I coaching staffs have signed up this season to use the product, and it's no wonder why. It's a fantastic site, cbbanalytics.com. The ability to slice different degrees of data through the whole college hoops landscape makes it a dream for a college hoops bettor, for a college hoops fan, for really anybody. You can get $40 off a subscription to cbbanalytics.com. There's a free trial as well, but $40 off the real subscription price with our promo code WEAVE. If you use that at checkout, again, cbbanalytics.com. If you are a diehard basketball fan, this site is one for you.
Great site. Shout out CBB Analytics. All right. Nothing in terms of key headlines, really. We kind of like that. No tectonic plates in the sport shifting. That's happy. That's good news. But in the coaching world, Kai, it's almost a weekly what did Kenny Payne say this week segment. This time, he got hoodwinked by another coach, Kai. How dare this happen to Mr. Payne?
Yeah, I retweeted this from the Weave account, of course. I'm going to read this. Seth Tao, sorry if I'm not pronouncing your last name right, T-O-W. After Kenny Payne's team, Louisville, lost to Indiana, he said, Kenny Payne says they didn't discuss the possibility of Indiana going to a zone. Said he never thought Mike Woodson would go to a zone defense. Quote, he tricked me. I think that's a trick. Just the funniest thing in the world.
I mean, again, I like Matt, kind of like the one about Okafor not getting 2 rebounds. I didn't watch it, so I don't know like the tone he said this in, like if he was kind of saying it in jest, but it's like you should be prepared for teams to play a zone. I don't.
That shouldn't be like checkers, chess versus. Actually, it's not chess for. It's like checkers versus Connect 4 or something. Like I don't think we can't really put Mike Woodson in the chess category. That just so we. But yeah, hey, the Cardinal were feisty. Can we just a quick moment?
Cardinals look good. Yeah,
I think good. Sky Clark guy resurrection.
I think Indiana might be.
It depends how good you think Indiana and Texas are.
Yeah,
so
true. Yeah. I agree. Yep, issues in both programs. Yeah, I agree.
The one kind of offshoot of this is that I think every coach, 362, should have a zone in their pocket because if you need to change the vibe of a game, it often just confounds the other team, even for a possession or two. Like you don't have to stay with it, you don't have to change to it permanently. But it can just take a team out of rhythm and they're like, oh, wait, are they going to go back to the zone? They come across the half court and they're not positive what the defense is going to be in. I don't think 100% of anything is a smart coaching choice. And I know there's teams that play 100% man. I think you should be able to have this in your back pocket just in case you need it. So, yeah, good job, Mr. Woodson there. Made a very good coaching move. I didn't even look up recruiting, Kai, and I want to skip it anyways because it's feast week and we want to talk about ball. Perfect. Transfer news. Aziz Bandaogo got his waiver at Cincinnati.
Huge.
Matt, I know you want to discuss this. I mean, he is a monster defensively. He was the defensive player of the year in the WAC last year. Super mobile, athletic, active big with great timing, blocking shots. Now he's not going to give them like a back to the basket post threat, Matthias, but he fits well in Wes Miller's scheme. And I think that's what you're most excited about.
Yeah, I'd say Big 12 beware. Like we've seen BYU kind of come out and make a statement early. And I think Cincinnati has done so as well, 4-0. And I think they just got a lot better with Aziz up front. I mean, just
there's a little team down there in Houston. It's pretty good too.
At Houston. Oh yeah. That team that just beats everybody and won by double digits, I think, every game in Charleston. Yeah. Good league, deeper, bigger, not fair, really.
Yep. And Kai, in UCLA news, Berke Buyuktunçul, I think is how it's pronounced. I know it's Berke in the first name. The Turkish forward finally got eligible, started against Marquette in the opening round, came off the bench in the second round against Chaminade. They started to experiment a little more with Ade Mara, the Spanish big man. But they're really not relying on their international guys very much yet, Kai. It's a lot more Sebastian Mack, Dylan Andrews, Adem Bona. I mean, Bona's international, but not one of the freshmen. Yeah. And even Stefanovic from UCLA or Utah. I was impressed by UCLA early, especially their defense against Marquette, considering what Marquette did to Kansas defense the following night. it's possible we might have underrated the Bruins if these international guys come on.
Yeah, well, Matt certainly did. Yeah, no, I'm coming around on the Bruins. I think they're going to be really good by conference play by the end of the year because of these international guys. Being at full strength now, they finally have them eligible. Number one, number two, they're just going to get better as the season goes on as they gel more. You mentioned the defense. That's obviously something that quote unquote wins championships, and Mick Cronin knows a thing or two about defense. So I think UCLA could be very good in the stretch run, we'll say, of the season.
Yes, indeedy. Matt, Seabass Mac, that Bash Mac, he can hoop.
Yeah, he's good, better than I thought. And Bona healthy is like, okay, yeah, that guy's an absolute difference maker. And then the foreign dudes are just really good. So I'm not ready to say I was wrong. I think it's just a higher floor than I thought, but the ceiling still feels somewhat low. I don't think there's really top 15 potential with this team. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah,
I think they're a tournament team. Maybe I was kind of saying this is a team. I think this is going to be 9 seedish. That's where I'm projecting it long term.
Okay.
9
Yeah, and
seedish.
the international guys have talent, but I would argue they have not looked good. Like, I don't think Burke looked good at all against Marquette. Like, he couldn't score. Oso was attacking him relentlessly defensively, and Mata couldn't stay on the floor. Vide is buried, nailed to the bench. He must not play.
Didn't
defense.
play against Marquette. Did not play against Marquette. Yeah.
Yeah. So that must be why Cronin despises him. So these guys have a long way to go, and surprise, surprise, that's typically the case with these international guys. They don't walk in and immediately become studs. But UCLA's other players were maybe a little better than I will just speak only for myself than I thought. All right, before we leave Roots Roundup very quickly, Kai, we have a Reddit stat of the day, and this is a great one. A big shout out down to Bunny Colvin, aka Leonard Hamilton in Florida State.
Yes, this comes from Pot Roast Potato is the username. With Florida State's NCAA record 14th straight overtime win against Colorado, they are now 55-19 in one possession / overtime games since their first ACC championship season back in 2012. Bonkers stat.
It's insane.
Nuts stat.
14 straight OT games. Like, it's just not, 14 is not a big enough sample to say anything, but they win every time, Matt. They make clutch shots. The defense doesn't go anywhere in the extra period. I've been very impressed with FSU so far this year. Definitely better than I thought coming into the preseason. It's come together better. Worley's been a little competent at point guard, and they've got a lot of length again.
Yeah, like that team. Did not like how it was framed as a terrible loss for Colorado. Like, no, Florida State's back-ish. Not back, but on the way back. I'll say back-ish for now.
Yeah, well, their loss to Florida, I watched that game. Florida's
came
good. Out boiling lava hot the first 10 minutes, and it's just like, all right, it's hard to get back in a game when they immediately get up 25. So I'm not fully punishing Florida State for that. Obviously, their defense had something to do with allowing that, but I'm not saying Florida State is 25 points worse than Florida. They're not. All right, guys, that's it for the roundup. But we got to talk Maui. We can't fully take everything away because we've got the championship and a great third place game, and even Gonzaga UCLA in the 5th and 6th place game. I'm actually going to start on the other end. We'll go 7 and then go through the championship teams. We're going to start with Syracuse because they've had some weird issues already so far, Kai. Super competitive through most of the game and 4 of their 5 and covering for most of the game and 4 of their 5. And then they just roll over late, have not covered a game yet, I don't believe. No. And there's something off with this team. And my main thing is we watched Mike Hopkins at Washington for years. Why did I think another Boeheim, assistant would suddenly have some form of team-based offense? I'm disgusted.
Yeah, the talent is not the issue. So what's the issue if the talent is not the issue? It's usually the coaching. I'm not ready to put it all on Autry because it is a fairly young team. It's still a fairly young backcourt despite the talent. Starling, Mintz, sophomores, right? I think they're going to get better. They've shown flashes in every single game. They've been up big in a couple of the games, and they just kind of fall apart late, not to cover. You mentioned, winless against the spread. So, I don't know. Again, kind of like UCLA, this team probably gets better as the season goes along, but right now they're just not nearly as good as I expect them to be out of the gate.
Yeah, high highs, low lows, volatile swings. I think, yeah, new team, youngish team, a team changing identity, you're right, kind of transforming. It was like Washington, we've seen this in some pieces this year. I mean, Hopkins has been there for a while, but they're basically playing a lot less zone. I just think it's a lot of new. The question is, where does this team settle long term? Like, do we see more of the highs, more of the lows? What's the mean outcome that we see in games as you get kind of deeper in AC's? I mean, they got Virginia coming up as an early conference game, got LSU. Oregon left on the non-con too. So they're going to probably enter conference play like not sub 500, but right around then. I kind of thought this would be a tournament team darling, but I'm sort of questioning that, Kai. I just don't think they're consistent enough. I thought they'd be more full and whole at this point, but they're just not. They got some mental leadership pecking order things to set out, I think.
I'm going to put them at like a 1% chance to make the tournament. I think they are all the changes you're talking about, Matt, in terms of like identity and bringing in new guys. They're super young, and I don't think their coach knows how to teach them. Like I just don't watch them and think, oh, they've got things like they've just the contrast between UCLA with a bunch of young disparate parts and how they defended compared to Syracuse. Just every time there was a cut, they lost him, or a drive and a dump off to the guy in the dunker spot. There's never a dig down. There's never somebody trying to get a hand in there. They don't help each other out, and you can only just say play together so many times without actually teaching them how and what that means in terms of rotation. So I'm not high on them. Mintz will do some cool things. Him and Starling will go off in a game and they'll win one at the Carrier Dome, but there's no way they're going to be consistent enough to do anything relevant this year.
JJ Starling, we thought you were a shooter. 1 of 15 from 3 this year. Last year, 26 of 8. So he's a career 26% shooter. It's going to look a lot like the old Q's teams. They can't make shots. We'll worry about that. Don't love that.
Yep. And they don't really have much depth, even as they try to. Maybe Westry coming back helps a little bit, but I have big fears for them. All right, let's go back to the top of this pecking order in this field. Purdue and Marquette. If you want to talk about how they match up with each other, that's fine with me. Matt, I'm going to go to you first here, though. Either team, Purdue and Marquette, what is a big takeaway you've had so far, or something you're going to be watching for? I guess a lot of people might listen to this after the game, so maybe keep it broad.
Yeah, I mean, Marquette, I think, is my biggest winner so far of this entire field to date. And we'll see how will that take ages. But they just have, even more than I thought, they have more just like unabashed confidence, not irrational, like just truly legitimate, confident dudes that can go make plays for you. You watch against Kansas, like Kansas has to score with execution. Their role players are kind of not scared of the moment, but maybe scared of the moment. Like sort of they balk at taking advantage. Like you mean like Sean Jones comes off the bench, just going right at dudes, making plays. I mean their bench
Ross
is deeper.
Chase
Ross, like step back buckets, like he's your fourth best guard. So that's kind of terrifying, I think, for Big East foes. Like there's a lot more alpha and shot making punch than I thought. It's not just like Kolek has to set the table, Oso sets the table. I think that guys can get their own in ISO or just kind of, good matchup situations, just can come at you from so many different, I don't know. Marquette, I'm jaw on the floor with Marquette impressed. So that's where I'm at, Kai.
It's the same thing as the last couple of years. Like, oh, Marquette's like even better than we expected. Everyone knows they're a top 5 team, but are they the best team? I mean, I'm not going to overreact to that extent, but they play great defense. They have so many weapons offensively, can beat you in multiple ways. They have shooting. They have arguably the best point guard in the country. There's a lot to like in Marquette. And obviously this podcast is coming out after or during the game, but I kind of think they beat Purdue too.
Well, Kai, everyone on the internet thinks they beat Purdue because I've been told like 15 times that Purdue sucks and Matt Painter sucks. Like they just beat Gonzaga and Tennessee.
Yeah.
Like I know some of the games were frustrating to watch. I blame Tennessee a lot for that.
I do too. I blame the balls. Jim, agree. Hard agree.
Yep.
Big agree.
Yeah, they didn't shoot free throws very well or make many jump shots, and they covered both games. Like Kai said, like people are just waiting to jump on them,
Mm-hmm.
but like they're in the final of a field that people said is the best ever. And they have had the toughest path. Like they played 2 top 11 teams to get there. Like they're just good. I know people want to just hang them out to dry because they have lost in the tournament and lost to a 16 seed, but they have a dominant interior big man. Lance Jones has given them some real speed on the perimeter. What he did to connect in the second half against Tennessee just took him away. was underneath him and couldn't handle the ball and kept getting it picked away by guys reaching in. Like that has really helped them. I don't love when they play Edey and Kaufman-Renn together because they're both like true centers and it doesn't totally sync up. And they still haven't gotten much from Colvin and Heidi as the athletic guys on the wing. But Matt, I think they're really good and justifiably a top 3 team. And I'm going to get annoyed every time somebody tells me they suck. And I'm thin-skinned for that, I guess.
Yeah, right. People forget they have Zach Edey because he hasn't had like one of those holy F dominant games yet, but he's pretty much been dominant, like in a more quiet way, if that's possible. Like he's been the Ken Pom game MVP every game. He had 23, 25, 28 against Tennessee, Gonzaga, Xavier, double-doubles in all those games, average 3 blocks. I mean, so we've gotten so numb and immune to the kind of dentist appointment type of consistency that Purdue brings that we're sort of it's very easy for us to nitpick. I definitely have some questions. I think there's some stuff that like, I don't know if I love those guards against pressure long-term in a 6-game setting in the tournament. But anyway, who cares? Right now they're awesome. And that I'm not going to be the Purdue naysayer. And I'm with Jim. I think the Tennessee game, people will talk about, the foul shooting fest. That was Tennessee. Like that's what Tennessee does, right? Like if you get a tighter whistle, you're going to have Tennessee games with 40 free throws. You get a loose whistle, that's going to benefit Tennessee and they'll be fine. But if it's called like tightly or correctly, I'd argue, that's a Tennessee problem, not a Purdue problem.
Guy, any Purdue thoughts? Or I mean, you picked them to win the national title. You're clearly high on that team. Have they changed your perception of them at all in this tournament?
No, not at all. I think they're still the best team in the country. They're not even playing that great, and they're beating really, really good teams.
Right, I agree. Exactly.
They're covering against some of the best teams in the country. And Zach Edey, he's averaging almost the exact same clip he averaged last year, except with more blocks. Like he's just as dominant. I think Braden Smith's getting better. Foster Loyer was really good to see him really do well last game because he's had
bounced back.
Yeah, a couple rough games to start, then 26 points against Tennessee. You get that production from your backcourt, and you have Zach Edey, pretty good team.
Yeah, the Smith stuff still mildly concerns me against like the stronger super, like the length, like Arkansas, what they threw at him and what Tennessee was able to. He was much better against Gonzaga because he's getting guarded by Ryan Nembhard and Hickman, who aren't the same caliber defenders. I am very curious to watch him against Sean Jones for much of that game and Stevie Mitchell, like 2 on-ball demons. That's going to be a big test for him. So looking forward to that game that you have probably already watched as you were listening to this. All right, next up, 3rd place game, Tennessee, Kansas. And Tennessee has mondo physicality. Matt, I'm just going to read one stat line here that is very much a gym agenda point, but Jordan Gainey through 2 games in Maui, 4 of 20 from the field, 2 assists, 3 turnovers. I just don't think he's an SEC player. I'm sorry. He's going to be awesome in bye games, super useful there. And against the worst teams in the SEC, he'll be solid. But like, I know he had the 1 dunk, but I just think he's really bothered by length and athleticism in his scoring game. I know no one's making shots in Maui, but I'm not sold on him. I am sold on Connect. I am sold on the Tennessee defense. I just don't know if they have suddenly 2 great scorers. I think they just have 1.
They just have 1. Right. I think that's the Connect is the guy that brings in that new element this year, but there's still, I think, a scorer, shot makers short. It's still the same Tennessee, right? Their formula to winning isn't with Dalton Connect scoring 40. It's we're going to just wear you down with physicality. We're going to guard you all over the floor. We're going to, wear you down with, kind of pushing. It's very similar to the West Virginia formula under Bob Huggins a few years back. Like they push the whistle to the limit where I think if the whistle goes their way, they kind of get an edge from that. But then I think even if it goes against them, it's a tight whistle. It sort of takes the air out of the game and it actually works in their favor because it's not like an offensively fluid team. Yeah. So even in games like it turns into free throw shooting contests and kind of looks ugly, that actually benefits them because they're actually they can win those kind of ugly type games against elite competition. Now I think that's playing with fire against maybe a 1-game situation. We've seen Rick Barnes fall asleep in the tournament sometimes in some tough spots. But I do think that's sort of part of what they do. So either, that's you accept it and be on board with it if you're a Tennessee fan, or, I got kind of sick of the ref whining from the Tennessee Twitter faithful. Like, I think that's just what your identity is and just embrace it. Like, own it. That's cool.
been their
It's not fun to watch always, but that's what they are.
It's been their identity for years. And yeah,
Exactly.
When you're facing a really physical team that just kind of leans on you the entire game, that really starts to add up in the fatigue department, right? As far as the opposing team goes. That's why Tennessee's so dominant in the regular season the last couple of years. They're a get off the bus team. And now they have Dalton Knecht, who is a legitimate scoring star. Tennessee's great. Kansas, Jim, I'm tired of I get the media thing, the unique clicks, but our very own good friend Goodman already with the KU loses one game and he's like, I just don't see how this team wins 6 in a row. I just don't. It's like we've played 4 games. They're still a top 3 team in the country. They can't shoot. That is a huge issue, but this team's still very, very good.
Yeah, people see a bad game from Timberlake and Elmarco Jackson, and they're like, well, I guess they'll always be bad. Like, there's just no perspective of like, oh, you know what? Maybe they'll improve. They're just not quite into the rhythm of things yet. McDowell gave him a little bit in the first half. Yeah. Like, DeJuan Harris couldn't make a jumper against Marquette, but look how good he was against Kentucky. Like, let's not overreact to the one game sample. Kansas is still a top 10 team. They have some things to figure out in the wing, and I think they are missing having one more guard that he who must not be named took away from them. But Matt, this team still rocks, and I think it was a lot more about Marquette to me against Kansas.
I agree. I'll side with our czar Jeff Goodman to some capacity. I do worry that this Kansas team is overly, like I said, execution reliant. Like there's not one guy on this team that can go get you one. I think DeJuan Harris needs to be more assertive. I think Bill Self needs to take DeJuan aside and just say, hey, listen, this team really needs you to like actually make some play. Like, I think he actually can shoot better than he's shown. He can score more dynamically than he's shown. Like, he's
got like a little floater game and
the
stuff.
The floater game's really good. Yeah, he just always hesitates to play. This team needs him to do that. Like, the last 3 years he hasn't had, but this team needs him to do that. The secret skeleton key, I still believe in my guy, Marco Jackson, was not good against Marquette at all, but I think he has the it factor. If they can kind of flip him on, he's like that second guard shooter that can make some stuff happen. And then that might make me turn back into the all-in, it's still KU favorite type of front runner angle.
Yeah, they like transition too. They're very reliant on that. If you can keep them out of that, then they especially early, they're going to have struggles because they have not solved the half-court spacing issues. All right. Anything on Gonzaga, UCLA? I've already kind of waxed poetic about UCLA's defense. My one Gonzaga note is I just can't believe they didn't bring in an Aaron Cook type, like a guy to come off the bench and play 15 minutes so you can rest Nembhard and Hickman and rotate them a little bit. I'm sure Mark Few tried. I'm just shocked, Kai, that they didn't land one of those guys because that's exactly what this team needs.
Yeah, I actually walked away super impressed with Gonzaga from this tournament so far, with obviously the UCLA game pending, but I think everybody expected, myself included to a certain degree, this to be a down year, quote unquote, for Gonzaga, and they look pretty darn good to me. I mean, Graham Ike is awesome. There is no translation issue stepping up in competition. I still think Nembhard's really good, and the production they're getting from guys like Huff and Stromer, man, if they're going to be good for them,
Dusty,
it's going to be a really good team again. It's obviously you're coached by Mark Few, who people forget. He is one of the best coaches in the country, one of the best coaches of the past 20-something years. So this team rocks. I was impressed by how they battled Purdue. They wiped Syracuse off the floor. We'll see how they do against UCLA.
This team needs Steel Ventures. That's where I stand.
That sucks.
Sure do.
Like, you're right. I think it's still been Kai with you. I was actually impressed because I had almost lowered my expectation bar too low. It is still really well coached. They make the right play. They move the ball. It's an unselfish team. I think defensively they're underrated. I mean, Ike has been a lot better defensively than I thought.
Yes, that was the exact point I was going to make. He's like a major upgrade from Timmy.
Like much more mobile than I thought. Remember him being at Wyoming? Like, I know people kind of criticize, he can barely jump over a credit card, but like with him and Watson again, in the WCC Defensive Player of the Year award, I think I messed up not putting him as the guy. He's great. So just those two on the back end, Hickman and Nembhard are good on. I mean, so they're balanced this year. They're not like as devastatingly talented offensively, especially without Ventures, but they are balanced and they're well coached, and it's still Gonzaga. So yeah, sleep with them at your own peril.
Yeah, Matt, any worry with them? Same thing with Kansas of who gets a bucket with them?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I think just actually very same vein. I like their shooting better from the outside, but not a lot of like shot making, shot creation. very transition reliant, similar to Kansas as well, right? You can get them out of transition. I think you can catch them sleeping in like a round of 32 game, Sweet 16 game.
Yep. All right, that's I think it for Maui. Unless you
No
guys
Silver
wanna
Sword
speak
discussion.
up.
The
No, I'm not.
shaman nerds. No,
I haven't really tuned into them, to be honest. They
I
fought
haven't
back
seen
from
much
down
of it.
28-4 against
They battled.
UCLA, cut it to like 10. Good job. They might beat Syracuse today. That's my only thing.
I hope
think,
they do.
I think Syracuse snoozes through that game. All right, we've saw that. It's time for we've saw that. Here's what we saw this week. I want to start with the best shot of the week, and that was from East Carolina's Bobby Pettiford, a Kansas transfer.
Mm-hmm.
A game that was super back and forth against Kennesaw State. I believe it was the third game in 3 days for both of them at East Carolina, part of their little mini MTE. Pettiford hit a 55-footer at the buzzer to win by 1. The game had a bunch of shot making late, some back and forth stuff. This was crazy, and it was kind of a fun like run into the stands and party with them because there's like no like banner or barricade between the court and the stands.
Such a cool feeling hitting a shot that big. I'm jealous of guys that have had that moment, the half court shot. Never made one in a game myself, Matt. Only in practice every single time.
You made a lot in practice, okay. You were money in practice. I think one of our better half court shooters that we teed up there.
Stop it. No, good for Bobby Pettiford. That's cool. We love buzzer beaters, half quarters.
Sure do. We sure do. Poor Kennesaw. Heartbreak there on the final day. All right, now we're going to do a quick little run through of the champions of the events that have taken place already. Maybe some very quick takeaways on them. Kind of batted around the horn. First is Houston, won the Charleston Classic, as Matt said, fairly easily. Did not really get challenged in the final minute of any of these games. Utah kind of had them close, but Dayton did not. Are they better than Kansas? Kai, I'll throw it to you quick. Are they better than Kansas?
Yeah, I thought so in the preseason, and I still do. Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with Kai. I've come around.
Yeah, do they have the best guards in the country with Shed, Cryer, Dunn, Arsenault, Sharp?
They're up
the
there.
best group of guards?
They're up there.
Yeah,
They're better than KU's guards. There's no question. Yeah.
Yeah, better than KU's guards. They're
and
better
their
than Michigan
front
State's guards. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, Hogard. Yeah, sorry.
Marquette's
AJ,
guards
you
are
haven't.
pretty good.
Marquette's are the best.
Creighton's
I
guards
think
are
the
pretty
best.
good.
Yeah. Yep. Good pull on Creighton. I'm glad you mentioned them. Liberty won the Myrtle Beach Invitational. We had a little mini discussion about the Flames. Matt, I think they're better than last year.
They're better.
Yeah, it's
Darius
insane. They
McGee.
lost 3,000 points.
Get them off. Yeah.
Don't say it like that. But they've got a ton more speed, not more speed, but they replenished the speed with Caden Matheny. He can fly. Guy that came from Bowling Green. And it's just kind of allowed Kyle Rode and Zach Cleveland and some of the front court guys to become even more assertive offensively. They don't make a bad play. Like the rotations defensively and the shot choice and passing decisions offensively, it just seems like insane to play against them. You have to be perfect to beat them.
Amazing coach. If he switched spots with Kenny Payne right now, Louisville would be top 25. I'm sure of it.
I love that. So go after him, even though Louisville really wants Jerome Tang. Just get Richie McKay.
Yeah.
Get Richie McKay. Embrace some of the, like you were talking about, Tennessee needs to embrace the style, like the physicality. Like Virginia now is obsessed with shot clock violations. That's how you lean into the style that your team plays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Miami, Florida won the Baha Mar Championship down in the Bahamas. And Kai, they're doing it again. Bad defense outside the top 100. They're not very good against mid-major competition in bye games, which is why their analytical ranking stays down. But they're awesome against equals, and their offense is a supernova. It's same old Miami.
So 5 to 7 seed Elite 8 run. Cue everybody talking about how good they are in the tournament. Yeah, seems like we're heading towards that point.
Pencil it in. Yeah, I mean, they shot the ball really, really well, particularly against Kansas State. But it's a really good shooting team between Poplar and Pack and even Bensley Joseph. So, yeah, they look terrific. The defense is going to continue to be an issue, but if you can't outscore them, and very few teams can, then that's a problem.
Matthew Cleveland, such an obvious transfer pickup. Like, God, the whole portal whiffed on not getting that guy. So props to
screw you.
Jimmy
Mizzou
Larinaga.
tried so bad.
You guys were in that hunt too. Yeah, that was a good target. And Denny G with I give you a plus for talent eval there.
A for effort. Thanks. We appreciate that. That means a lot now looking back. Matt, San Diego State won the main event in Las Vegas, Continental Tire main event. Took care of Xavier, and whooped St. Mary's. And kind of shocked they lost at BYU, given how incredible they've looked so far. And Ladie is like in the Wooden conversation. He's top 5 in Ken Pom Player of the Year. He's averaging like 27 and 11. Anything on the Aztecs from you so far?
No, I just all the Ladie hype we heard last season, which I think we were kind of waiting. Like, okay, here it comes, and we saw flashes of it. At the tournament, there were certainly flashes, and now it's his show. Like, I think they're still kind of figuring out their backcourt a little bit. A part of which was because they've had, Trammell not 100%, and Butler's sort of a little bit, hit or miss, feast or famine. Yeah, well, he's just a beast.
Yep. They beat Washington, not Xavier, excuse me. Correct.
Yeah, now, Kai, I mean, I don't, St. Mary's, like, yeah, they blew them out, but St. Mary's doesn't exactly look like themselves right now either. So, yeah, very impressive, Jim. I'm still holding out some skepticism about the Aztecas a little bit.
Not a ton of depth for them. Like, they're not getting like really any production off the bench. And last year that was something they could turn to quite a bit. But man, if Ladie is going to be this good, 34 and 17 in the OT win against Washington, then the other guys only have to be solid, and they're going to maintain their status atop the Mountain West. How about UConn, Kai? Reigning national champions. Perhaps we should have led with them. Yeah, they won the Empire Classic. I had a little bit of questioning with them, that Texas team without Shedrick and without Disu hanging around the whole way, needing some like kind of insane Caravan shots to really clinch that game. So I don't think they're quite what they were last year. No. And I think Indiana is bad, but they're top 5. They're really, really good again.
Yeah, and they didn't have Castle, right? They're one of their best players too.
And Klingon still doesn't look fully right.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite healthy yet, or something. Yeah. I know they're trying to ramp him back up. He's not playing as many minutes as he probably should or could if he was fully healthy. But
who cares? Samson Johnson's better. He's better.
I disagree.
This is such a, like, last year people said Klingon was better. Yep. Like, the backup running back's always better than the starter.
Yep. There's like no weaknesses in this team. I mean, they have shooting again. Tristan Newton is fantastic. He's a fantastic player, fantastic point guard. They have size. They have a lot of shooting. They have no weaknesses again. They're awesome. Not as good as last year, but they're awesome.
The one thing I would have said was like, in those games, it kind of seemed like they just needed one more guy to create, a little more playmaking. It's like, 5-star Stephon Castle will be back in a couple weeks or a week and a half. He'll pretty much solve that issue. I'm not too worried about it. Matt, quick comment on Indiana. How worried are you about your Hoosiers?
Oh, all the way worried. 11 out of 10. Full blown.
They're bad.
Like, guy in coffee shop. This is fine. Fire all around you. Yeah, I mean, like, again, it's not just lack of shooting. It's also like lack of intelligence on both ends of the floor. And I think very real, locker room disengagement. Just a ton of. Me and Mitch always make fun of teams like, Duke, for example, looked like a bunch of betas in that Arizona game. I think Indiana looked like a bunch of betas against UConn. Just zero, like, we're going to respond to a run here. We're going to go make a play with some assertiveness. None of that. Just completely MIA.
One note on on Woodson. He was talking about Mbako. I think I can't remember which game he was talking about him after, but he was like, I'm so mad at people that just assume the 5-star freshman is supposed to be good right away in college. Like, what's this expectation? It's like, are you kidding me? He's a top 10 player, and his problem's not talent, man. It is freaking effort. He stands straight up and down. He has no awareness at all on defense. It's really hard to watch, Jim.
Yeah, I believe Jordan Majeski said he looks like he's never played in any defensive scheme. Not like he's not acclimated to this one. He just there's no. I should naturally start to sag into the lane. Like, he doesn't really have that. They're 360th nationally in percentage of points scored behind the 3-point line. They don't take any. They don't make them when they take them. Yeah. It's a problem, and teams know it, and they're really going to struggle with that. And unfortunately, Matt, the defense hasn't carried them the way that it maybe should have. So Indiana definitely close to panic button there.
So.
Auburn won the Legends Classic. I'll be honest, I didn't watch very much of this particular event.
I did.
All right, Matt, tell me what you saw.
Well, I have a thought on My Guys Part 2. I want to give Aiden Holloway a lot of love, but
we can hold off.
I'm in on the Tigers. Yep.
Okay. more to come there then. Kai, Mississippi State won the Hall of Fame tip-off. They are now top 16-ish in KenPom. They still don't have Tolu Smith, but the defense still rocks. Josh Hubbard looks great. Trey Fort looks good from beyond the arc. Matt, Andy Taylor doesn't even do anything, doesn't play, and
Doesn't
it's
matter.
still fine.
Who?
I mean, how legit are they, Kai? They're one team that has shot up the rankings, and it's not like Iowa State or BYU where they've smashed inferior competition. They've beaten solid teams, 3 top 100 wins already.
Yeah, I don't know a Final Four contender, but like I could see them going on a run and getting there because I think their guards are actually pretty good and they can be game breaker types in a tournament, get hot in a tournament. And again, we have not seen them with their best player, their All-American center, Tolu Smith. They're amazing. Their ceiling's top 10. I don't know. It could be.
Yeah, there's no reason they can't do what San Diego State did last year.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say Final Four good if I saw Tolu Smith, but again, I worry about just the workload that's been wearing on big old Jimmy Bell up front. That's my only concern. They have everything else, I think, this year.
Yeah, Bell, and they go small, and they'll play that the junior college big man whose name is escaping me a little bit. So they've got options, but Tolu would just set them even onto a new level. Missouri State won the Paradise Jam. Utah State won the Cayman Islands Classic. I think both of these are Flow Hoops things, so I did not watch a single lick of them because I think Flow Hoops is bad. So Kai, not a ton here. I know you hate Missouri State for their opening day collapse. Yeah. But I do think there's talent on that roster. And Dana Ford's done a pretty nice job so far. Utah State won a decent mid-major field. Mr. Sprinkle, Danny Sprinkle, really good basketball coach, won 2 straight Big Sky titles at Montana State, already got it somewhat going at Utah State. Impressed with him. Florida State won the Sunshine Slam. We already talked about them a little bit, so I'm not gonna dwell too far on FSU. Kai, UCF and South Carolina both won events. UCF won the Jacksonville Classic. South Carolina won the Arizona Tip-Off. I know you've got South Carolina in one of your thoughts, so
I do.
I'm just going to skip.
Do you really? Good for you, Mike Cox.
That's a broader.
As part of it.
It's a broader thought.
Mike Cox.
Yep. And another big day of finals today. Invitational, Fort Myers Tip-Off, Gulf Coast Showcase, Cancun Challenge. George Mason trying to keep that at-large bid alive, and the SoCal
Tony
Challenge.
Skin and the boys.
So check those out. And then quick acknowledgments, and we saw that. We do like to discuss teams that drop a bye game, especially really disgusting ones. And Kai, that means we got to look in the mirror and talk about our Mizzou Tigers losing as 22-point favorites to Jackson State. They were horrible down the stretch. Yeah. Offense was nightmarish. Couldn't really finish possessions on the glass. How bad is Mizzou? Are we more worried about Mizzou than Matt is about Indiana?
No.
Who's better? Better team right now.
I think Mizzou's better than Indiana right now.
I agree. I do agree.
And Indiana hasn't even lost a bye game, but Mizzou did.
Look, Mizzou hasn't really shot well yet. I think they're a better shooting team than what they've shown, number one. But what the problem is Gates has not figured out the rotation yet. We cannot play 11 or 12 guys. Just can't do it. So that's going to get sorted out soon. Obviously, dropping a Q4 game this early is bad. Let's see how bragging rights goes, Jim, later on. Playing Illinois, we're going to get smoked by Kansas. But I still think Mizzou has a chance to make the tournament. Obviously, not a great start.
Can they win at Pitt, Kai?
Pitt looks great. So we'll be significant underdogs in that game. But
I can't believe I'm shaking my head. It'd be huge. It's good. It's like it double-edged sword, like great opportunity now, but like I'm nodding my head emphatically, like there's no chance you win that game because that's how good Pitt's looked.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, that's a concern. And Matt, referendum on your FAU Owls lost to Bryant at home.
They're fine.
Are they?
No,
we'll see.
not.
ESPN Events Invitational preview coming a little at the end of this pod, but Nick Boyd banged up. Elijah Martin maybe not fully 100% back. I mean, this is a bad loss. Bryant has not been good this year.
Yeah, Dusty warned us there'd be some losses. They're not good right now. 2 of your top 3 players are banged up. Nelly Martin hasn't looked all the way consistent. Give it time. They're going to be. They'll be.
Why aren't they good?
Nelly Martin.
Why aren't they good?
Nelly Martin.
Dusty, I have questions.
Martin's been hurt. Martin's been hurt. Boyd's been banged up.
Exact same team.
I mean, you have the most and like everything was how hard they worked all off season and how the egos weren't a problem for this team. I'm with you, Kai. What's the reason? Why aren't you good?
My take is they're all too gun shy. They're all too passive. I saw a lot of passing up great looks to get like way too good of looks against Loyola. Like, just shoot the ball. You're all good at just shoot. I don't know. That's my theory.
Yeah, trying to get the perfect shot.
Yeah, perfect shot. Over coaching, over playing. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay,
that makes
all
sense.
right. Michigan lost to Long Beach State. Kind of canceled out some of their darling status early in the year. Arkansas lost to UNC Greensboro. All right, Musselman. We know what's coming later in the year. I'm not fooled. You can lose to whoever you want. I know you'll be good in March. St. Joe's lost to Texas. Yeah. St. Joe's lost to Texas A&M Commerce, and I bring this up because St. Joe's then almost won at Kentucky. Kai, St. Joe's is a wide range of outcomes from a day-to-day basis.
They are the perfect high variance team. We knew this was going to happen. Billy Lang will lose to teams that he should not. This will happen in the A-10 as well, and they can beat anybody. Probably should have beaten Kentucky because they can shoot. Everybody on their team can shoot. Their guards are awesome, and Asandako, their big guy, is very good. So they're going to have lapses against like teams like Commerce, LaSalle. I bet LaSalle beats them this year, and they're going to beat Dayton. They're going to beat the VCUs of the A-10, that sort of thing.
I didn't realize that Asandako is like a monster big person. I thought he was like, huge, the kind of thin, like athletic type 6'11" guy. It's like, no, he's just a load, like absolute load. Yeah. Which I love guys like that.
Poorly coached team still. Touch. That's where they are.
It is a poorly coached team. That's why they're like that.
Yep. And then Cal lost to Montana State. Exhibit 1000 of Jim overhyping a team in its first year. They've got like 5 good players and 3 of them are out right now, or 6 good players and 3 of them are out. And that's even counting Devin Askew as a good player, and I probably shouldn't do that. So, not the Cal rejuvenation that we thought it was going to be this year.
No, burn that ticket.
All right. All right, let's get to a quicker version of 3-man thoughts. I'm not sure we all did 3 here. I certainly didn't. But 3-man thoughts. Kai, sponsored by our good pals over at Home Field Apparel, who I know are doing a big Black Friday sale for anybody looking to get some Christmas gifts for their family and friends.
I do think the Black Friday deal is better than our deal, so plug that. I think Black Friday's the code, 20% off site-wide at homefieldapparel.com. The makers of the best collegiate apparel in the world. Very, very comfy clothes, joggers, shirts, hats even for certain schools, all that good stuff. Home Field, you guys probably know what they are by now. Homefieldapparel.com. On any other time, use our promo code, 3MW. That's 15% off. But again, Black Friday, 20% off. Take advantage. Buy some of those bomber jackets. They look awesome.
We're sacrificing our own promo code to get you 5% extra off there. So do that. Great gear over there at Home Field. All right, let's get to 3-man thoughts. Kai, I don't want to start with your first one because it's too negative. So I'm going to go to Matt first. Matt, give me a 3-man thought to lead us off here.
I'll make it quick. It's the My Guys series, part 2, volume 2, episode 2, with a quick nod to the mini mites, the maestros, the jitterbugs, what have you.
Dynamos. I call them that in my writing all the time.
That's a good alliterative use. Very nice. And there's more than this. I'm going to highlight 2 of my favorites though. Josh Hubbard, we talked about him briefly in the Mississippi State section. Him and Trey Ford have been kind of the newcomers that have really lifted this team's ceiling, but Hubbard was the guy who I had read about and watched preseason, just like an absolute gunner sniper in high school. He comes in, and just to see like Jans give him all the confidence, like you could see Jans burying him as like, okay, this guy's not ready to play defense yet, but Jans like, no, we need you. And he's come out there and just, he's responded. He's answered the bell. And he's
29 of their 66 against Northwestern.
Against Northwestern. Yeah, he's just on fire. He can make plays for others too. And he's pesky enough defensively that I think he's not like a liability on that end. So shouts to him. Love him. And then Aiden Holloway, not exactly an under the radar name, Auburn star point guard. And I was kind of skeptical of, I guess I am for most high major freshman point guards coming into their, to run a team. But I guess with Bruce Pearl, his track record speaks for itself. And I probably should have believed in this earlier, but he's he's very much the Jared Harper 2.0 that I thought he could be. I don't think this Auburn's team is as good as that Final Four team, but I think you have a Jared Harper-esque leader, and man, I bet against them against who was it? Baylor. I think I had Baylor in that game. I was lucky to cover that game. I ain't betting against Auburn again this year. Holloway is an absolute stud, can shoot it from anywhere, gets in lane, plays a little older than he is. I mean, he's going to make some head-scratching plays at times, Kai, but he's a lot more seasoned than I thought. So Shout out to Mr. Holloway, Mr. Hubbard in the SEC.
Hey, remember what
More-
seed
more
that
guy
Auburn
guys
team
to
was?
come.
5 seed, right?
Yeah, I guess they were we're 5 seed, right? Yeah, that's right. Good
It's not
point.
crazy.
Yeah, they beat like UNC, Kentucky, Kansas back to back
Yeah.
to get to the Final Four. It was like the blue blood destroyer. All right, Kai. Now I will hand you the rock, and really you can pick whichever thought you want to go to.
No, I'm going with the negative one first. We'll get it out of the way. Jay Williams sucks. This is Matt's guy from Duke. He loved him growing up for good reason. He was a good player, but this guy's become the biggest blowhard in college basketball. It's minute long rants during games as the color commentator. Ravitch was clearly annoyed by Jay Williams during the Madison Square Garden games.
He just wants to talk about the game. Yeah,
horrible.
Dallin Cuff, poor Dallin. Love Dallin. Get him some better cohorts.
He's
ESPN.
completely devolved into this hot take artist. I just can't stand listening to him, and unfortunately, ESPN thinks that's a better guy to employ than someone like, LaFonso Ellis, who they got rid of, who's a fantastic commentator and level-headed and measured, and it's just a shame. It's horrible when he's on the mic.
My biggest gripe with him, Kai, beyond all this stuff, and I guess it's kind of part and parcel with it, is he sounds like he hates college basketball.
Yeah.
Like if you don't like the sport, don't cover it. If you don't like the way it's trending and all the landscape of transfers, I don't need your get off my lawn takes about people leaving and how in his day, literally said back in my day.
He's 42, by the way.
Yeah, like it just infuriating. And then he's in the studio calling Graham Ike and Hunter Dickinson Hunter Dickerson.
Right.
Like you don't even know the players. That's like if I tried to cover the NFL and was like, Patrick Mahomes, who is this guy? I've never even heard of him.
True.
Like you have to know what you're talking about if you're going to be doing that, and at least sound like you like it. Like Matt, we talked sometimes about Rothstein. Some of the one-liners get annoying, but like I know that he loves college basketball. And
John bleeds ball. Yeah,
and
Jay's
Jay
been
doesn't.
on first
Jay
take
doesn't
too
like
much.
it. Jay doesn't care.
We'll too much run on first take. Like NFL takes, NBA takes, kind of like in that generalist. I kind of I'll hover in here and I'll hover in there for a take. But yeah, like college basketball is too nitty gritty of a sport. Unless you're like Charles Barkley entertaining, I just don't really care for your opinion. It's not NBA or NFL. It requires an in-depth specialist type of knowledge. Again, exception being Charles Barkley, who I will listen to until the cows come home about whatever he wants to talk about. But Jay Williams, not in that boat. Sorry, Jay.
It's also confusing to me that we're putting these guys on because nobody is pining for Jay Williams to be on the broadcast. No one's watching it for Jay Williams. Like Benetti didn't play basketball, and he's one of the best announcers in the game.
Yeah, he's great.
You don't have to play high-level college basketball or be in the NBA to be an announcer. Some of these guys just suck.
Yeah. I just want you to like what you're talking about. That's like my biggest ask. Like I don't
like
think
you
that's
wanna
a
be there.
huge demand.
Anyways,
All right. My first thought, I'm going to call it the undefeated, but wait and see it. I was hoping that kind of rhymed. Did it work?
That kind of good.
You guys
I like
told
it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. This is going to link up with one of Kai's thoughts, so I won't completely step on it, and I'll kick it to him next. But teams that have looked really good early, but against awful competition, Nebraska and Pitt qualify here. Kai will discuss them. But Iowa State 4-0, but they played the 361st schedule per Ken Palm, second easiest in the country. TCU 5-0 against the 358th schedule. Penn State 4-0 against the 357th schedule. Seton Hall 4-0 against the 354th schedule, and NC State 3-0 against the 341st schedule. About to see all these teams go to action in an MTE starting today or tomorrow. So we're going to find out a lot more about them. But I do have to acknowledge them. A lot of these teams had a lot of turnover. Kai, they did what our Mizzou Tigers did last year, kind of a cupcake schedule to try and figure things out, get it going. BYU almost qualifies here, but they beat San Diego State, so they're at least excused. But I'm intrigued by these teams, but of course need to see them do it against real competition.
I think some teams you can tell, even against the dregs, like Iowa State, we probably agree.
Yeah.
They are awesome. Also, the track record helps, right? We've seen them be awesome for the last couple of years under Otzelberger. I'm pretty confident they rock. I think TCU is really good. Penn State, Seton Hall, NC State, I'm not sure. So going to need to see more from them. But Iowa State, TCU, I'm pretty sure are that level.
Yeah,
Matthew,
okay, Jim.
any thoughts on those, or I can just kick it to Kai for his more extended thought on some of these teams.
Yeah, let's go to Kai because I actually had
Yeah.
I wanted to hit on some of these. Like, what do we think about these? We don't know who they are as yet. This is good. This is good banter. Kai, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's kind of extending on Jim's thoughts. So undefeated teams, but from power conferences who used to be dregs in the league. Are they getting good, or is it just early scheduling? So Nebraska, Jim mentioned briefly, 5-0, 45th in KenPom, ranked 6th in the Big Ten right now per KenPom. I'm not sure I would necessarily agree, but it's a computer analytics. Haven't really played anyone yet. The Oregon State win was impressive, though. Say what you will about the Beavers, they're not totally incompetent, and to beat them by 20 was impressive on a neutral floor. So Nebraska looking on the upswing, I suppose, for now. Again, let's see. South Carolina, 5-0, 60th in KenPom, 9th in the SEC, so rated currently by Ken. Wins
They better
over
than Mizzou, Kai?
they're right now. I think you'd have to say they probably are. I
Yep.
would still have Mizzou favored, but you could argue that's just wrong right now.
Yep.
And they beat Virginia Tech. They beat Grand Canyon, who I think is really good. It's impressive. Is it a Ewing theory with Gigi gone? Is the guys they brought in like Mac just better fits for the style? Is Paris more comfortable as the head coach this season? It could be a lot of factors, but they do look really good, impressive. Washington, they've lost 2 games, but 61st in KenPom, 7th in the Pac-12. They beat Xavier. They nearly beat San Diego State, which is the game I'm really like paying attention to. They took them to overtime. Their only loss is Nevada, outside of San Diego State. Nevada looks awesome. They look just about unstoppable. I'm not really faulting them that much for that loss anymore. I don't think Hopkins is a great coach still. They might not even make the tournament because it's Washington, but still an improvement from last season. And then finally, Pitt, a team we could sort of mention already in this podcast. 4-0, 40th in KenPom, 5th in the ACC. Again, haven't really played anyone yet, but I've been impressed just watching them from the eye test. The freshman guard duo we might have mentioned a couple times, Bub Carrington and Lowe, legit game breaker style players, and Henson is a really good player. So I think Pitt could be for real out of all these teams.
Yep, we're going to find out tonight. They got Florida. Really, really excited for that game just because I think I need to see a little more from both, Matthias. Your extended thoughts on these? I feel like a couple of these teams intrigue you.
Yeah, I think Nebraska is last year's Pitt, and Pitt's just a newer, better, cooler version of last year's Pitt. If that makes sense. So Nebraska is like kind of reset, reshuffle the deck a little bit with older dudes. Hoiberg's kind of coming up. The clock's running, a little bit of hot seat. You kind of saw it with Capel last year, like, crap, I need to win now. I'm going to get older guards and hope they work, and they did. Hoiberg, got Tomiyaga to come back, gets Bryce Williams in there, picks up an awesome just hub and Enrique Mask, and it's working. I think they're going to be a bubble team. I think they're going to get really good. They're going to have an awesome non-con, and then have some questionable moments throughout the conference play where you're going to say, fraud, but still good enough. Where I think Pitt had those moments last year. They were still good enough to get to the tournament. Got a pretty good draw, and I think they proved they belong to a point. That's the course I see Nebraska charting this year. I think Pitt has just a much higher ceiling than their own versions last season, especially if Bub gets better and Federico and the Graham Bros, aka the diet Chet
Homeless.
Chet Homeless. Yeah.
Chet Homeless. Thank you. Yeah, I like that team. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Nebraska and Pitt are the two that I've surrendered on. They're just better than I thought they were, and I have to tip my cap because I didn't see this coming, or quite to this extent, at least. All right, another thought, Matthew. Do you have a second one?
No, we all kind of hone on the same thing. I wanted to talk like the Big 12 mirages, Matty Mirages specifically. Iowa State, I think we're sort of I think we were believing. Oklahoma's interesting. Is their schedule the most roll your eyes at schedule to where nothing they've shown you matters at all? Kai, Jim, or
yeah, they should be in my undefeated wait and see it. They should be.
Yeah, that was the one I wanted to, because they're up to 26 in KenPom because they've beaten 3, I would call it 4 bad teams by just
I don't know
ridiculous margins.
360th in strength of schedule.
CMU, Mississippi Valley State, Texas State, UT Rio Grande Valley. I would put 3 of those teams as just right for pickings for favorites. But I don't know. I look at this roster. Our guy Milo Zuzan, Rob Doster's picked. Was it first team All Big 12?
It was the coaches picked him as the breakout
coaches
player
pick. Sorry,
Big 12.
He's actually not been that great. He's been awesome. Is Otega Owe?
Yeah, Owe.
And McCollum's been great coming over from Siena. We always know he was good. He just, I think, is finally healthy. John Hewley in sort of a resurrection year after he was kind of phased out at Pitt. And now he's kind of found himself in a place where, Porter Moser's always finds ways to utilize his bigs in effective avenues. And that's just another example there. I kind of like OU. I think OU is the same every year. We thought they'd be down this year. It's like, no, there's still OU. They're still going to be, just under 500 in Big 12 play. If they're a little bit worse, it's because they just had a couple close losses. If they're a little better, because they probably got lucky a little bit. But it's still freaking OU. Like, they were 5-13 in the league last year. I think they're probably maybe 7-11 this season, but probably top 50, top 60. And if they get a few close games go their way, that's another bubble issues team that the mid-majors will probably hate.
Yeah, another one that's about to get tested. I feel like theirs is very schedule based, but I've watched more Iowa State than I've watched Oklahoma, so perhaps that's part of why I'm leaning towards Oklahoma or Iowa State as the true, like, legit one of that group. It's intriguing. All right, I've just asked one of my other thoughts because it wasn't that interesting, but Kai, just a very mini rant of watching games. Why can't players catch the ball anymore? And I'm talking like mostly routine pass. And the guys are like looking up. I mean, it's like they're the Chiefs receivers. Haha, cross sport. Way to go, Jim. Just drops galore, like balls going out of bounds. So you juggle it and end up handing it to the defender. This happened a lot in Maui that I've seen. Happened a little bit in Atlantis that we were watching. I just keep thinking guys have like dipped their hands in grease before they go out there. And it's driving me mad. Like, let's do the basic things right.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. I want more clean performed games. I guess this is why NBA fans prefer watching the NBA, because there's not this much sloppiness. And it is somewhat charming at times, Kai, but it does also drive me nuts.
Is there a new ball? Is my first question. The second question, I think at least what I'm seeing is it's a lot of big guys. And as
it's always the bigs. It's always been the bigs.
Part of the rant I did a couple weeks ago was teams are forcing big guys to be ball handlers more in their offenses, even in the half court. And some of these guys just aren't built for it. So you're putting them in bad situations to where they're forced to handle the ball more. And I think it's leading to a lot of that, the Butterfinger syndrome, I suppose.
Yep, I buy that for sure. Let's keep the ball in the hands of the guys who should have it. Kai, do you have a last thought? No,
I'm going to push it next week. Thoughts? Push it next week.
All right. Well, yeah, I know we want to get to watching a great Maui game that's going on right now, a great Atlantis game. So quick previews. We obviously have North Carolina through to the semifinals. You and I on the losers bracket side. Nova, Texas Tech going on right now in Atlantis, and then Michigan, Memphis, Arkansas, Stanford going tonight. Matt, anything you're looking for most out of this tourney, and give me a champion pick.
I almost said Michigan. I think I'm going to say Michigan. I think the Long Beach State thing was a mirage. I still believe it's a legitimate basketball team. Long Beach threw some zone at them, and they also just took the night off defensively. And I think Michigan's still a good defensive team. Like, Long Beach exposed them for sure, but I still believe it's a good defensive team. And every team in this field has flaws. Like, I believe that firmly. Now, if UNC makes 10 of 11 threes in every half they play, then maybe they're just the best team in the country. But I think Michigan's my most complete team I've seen so far.
I was actually saying Michigan too, which seems odd to double up on Michigan, but yeah. So you and I, man, they lost second half today by 28 because North Carolina hit double-digit threes in the second half.
Everything. Yeah.
I wasn't impressed with North Carolina in the first half. I don't think they're well coached still. So, whoever wins Texas Tech Nova. Again, I'm not impressed with Arkansas this year. Stanford's got a couple guys out. So I think Michigan for me is my choice at this point.
Yeah, the North Carolina thing, I was more impressed with their defense than their offense, which sounds silly because
I agree.
Yeah, they just rained in threes, but they took care of the Purple Panthers offense in the second half and kind of took advantage of their lack of ball handling. I'm going to go with my final is winner of Texas Tech Nova against Memphis. So big one between the boys here tonight, Memphis versus Michigan. I just kind of like what I've seen from Memphis, and maybe it's, winning at Mizzou isn't as impressive anymore, but they've played a decent gauntlet already. They've got a ton of depth, athleticism, and a true point guard in Quinterly. So I'm actually going to ride with the Memphis Tigers, and I'll take Texas Tech as my champion in this one. They're currently up 1 on Villanova, so I'm getting a little bit of inside information there, Matt. Insider trading on my title pick
Teams
with the
never
Red
come
Raiders.
back, so cool.
Nope, not even once in the entire sport. Quick ESPN Events Invitational discussion. A lot of teams we've mentioned already on this podcast are in this field. Penn State taking on Texas A&M, FAU and Butler. And the other side, Iowa State and VCU, and Boise State and Virginia Tech. I'll just take this one, Kai, right off the bat. I am picking Iowa State to win.
Yep.
I think they show what they have done so far is actually legitimate. And I just haven't been super impressed with FAU. Texas A&M still dealing with the marble stuff, and I don't love them. I think Iowa State kind of announces to people, remember us? And like for years, 2 straight years under Otzelberg, they've been awesome in non-conference play. And I think they've got even more talent right now. So I think that continues.
Iowa State for me. This could look bad, but I think they're going to dismantle VCU tomorrow. I think they match up really well with them. And again, they're the most impressive team I've seen in this field. Virginia Tech's been solid. I think Boise's going to give them a good game, though. A&M is going to be good, too. It's a pretty good field, honestly. Like Butler might be pretty good. You never know. So I'm pretty excited to watch all of these games, but I'll go Clones, Matthew.
I'm going A&M. Did we all bail on A&M? Like they're 4-0, and I know Ohio State's down. They won at Ohio State. They won at SMU, who's been really good. I'm going A&M. You guys are cowards for bailing on the A&M train, and I'm still on the FAU bandwagon. That's a long-term bandwagon. Owls Nation. I'm still with you, just not in this specific MTE, not this weekend.
Does FAU take care of Butler at least, Matthew?
I don't know. Butler's feisty. I kind of think Butler's going to give him might beat him. Yeah, Butler's good.
Curious where you landed there. Okay. Quick picks on the Emerald Coast Classic. Kai, Bama versus Ohio State and Oregon versus Santa Clara. What do you got?
Alabama. I think they're pretty heavy favored. Yeah, Alabama.
Yep. I'm going Bama over Santa Clara. I think Santa Clara nips Oregon, who is really, really banged up right now. Matt, what do you think?
Santa Clara wins it. Best team in this field right now.
Ooh, better than Alabama. Oh boy, they're gonna be like a 12-point dog. You better, Matty Moneyline's better come out to play there.
Yeah, I will. He'll be there. He'll be dabbling. No, I mean that's too far. Bama's really good. I actually think Santa Clara is really, really good. Right now, I should say. So I think they win this.
Vegas Showdown. I think BYU is like a -130 favorite to win this event. They take on Arizona State first, and the other side is Vandy and NC State. I'm not doing anything different, Matthew. I'm going with BYU there. I think they kind of like Iowa State show that their early returns are legitimate.
Yeah, and this bad for Vegas to get the Arizona State, Vandy, NC State, like slim pickings of the power conferences. Yeah, I think BYU wins this.
BYU for me.
Okay. And the Children's Invitational, Oklahoma versus Iowa. Maddie, your Boomer Sooners. And then Seton Hall versus USC, who's presumably healthier here. They did barely get by Brown despite Boogie Ellis and Kobe Johnson returning. I will go with USC, though. I just don't fully trust Oklahoma yet. Kai, what do you think?
I'm going Boomer Sooner.
I'm with Kai.
Yep. There we go.
This is actually a fascinating foursome field. This is like very contrastive styles. It's got a lot of good stuff here.
I think Moser's the best coach of the four here. So I think that gives him a little bit of an edge. Just quick turnaround time. Yeah.
Just looking at it, Kai, eyeballing it, I agree with you. I think he is the best coach there.
Yeah.
All right, and last, real quick, Arizona, Michigan State. They are playing on Thanksgiving Day in Palm Springs. I've had a not a colleague, I will say, but a guy I know DM'd me that he thought this was the perfect home run spot for Michigan State.
Wow.
But Arizona has been a juggernaut so far this year, Kai. I think they're going to dominate the paint in this one. And if we get capable of defending like he has so far this year, you throw him on, Tyson Walker. I guess maybe Larson will be on Walker and Love on Hogard. But I just can't go against Arizona right now the way they are rolling.
Is Walker healthy? I assume he'll play.
Yeah, it was like illness. I think he's going to be fine.
Well, if you like Michigan State, you're not going to get a better number. It's going to be big spread. I will not go against Arizona. I added them to my futures portfolio a couple days ago. I think they could. I did too. I think they could be the best team in the country. They've been ridiculously good.
Yep.
Yeah, Arizona by doubles. Maddie 2 years ago would have given you all the Michigan State spot, bounce back regression nonsense. Like, no, this is a new and improved Matt. Arizona is the better team emphatically, and I think they're like still in the prove it phase of their season, and there's no like let down, give up spot. I think they're more matchup adaptable this season. So like if Michigan State decides to slow it down, which they probably won't, I think they'll be better suited than we saw against like Princeton. So yeah, Arizona's complete. They're just better by a good margin right now.
Trust your eyes there, Maddie. But what we've seen with our eyes is that Arizona is fantastic and Michigan State is not quite yet. Although I do like that they played that game without Walker and maybe got some of the other guys confident. But that's it. That wraps it up for this week's pod. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to the chat. We enjoyed the live interaction. But man, it's feast week. We got a lot of ball to consume, a lot of food to consume. So we're going to go do that. Kai, Matt, good to see you fellas. And to the listeners,